The frail Akamarian girl cowered in a dark university alleyway, purple blood oozing from her wounds, terror filling her luminous eyes as the tall human student approached. But little did she know, he would become her unlikely savior in this cruel, hateful galaxy. Walter Bennett, a 22-year-old human, sprinted across the prestigious Galactic University campus on planet Nexus Prime, his heart pounding. He was late for xenobiology class after another long night hitting the books. As he cut through a dim back alley, a feeble, pained cry made him skid to a halt. He squinted. Slumped against the wall was a wounded purple Akamarian girl, her silvery hair matted with indigo blood, bruises and cuts marring her delicate features. She looked about his age. When her glowing green eyes met his, they widened in sheer fear. She tried scrambling away, but her battered body wouldn't cooperate. Walter raised his hands. "Whoa, hey, it's okay. I don't want to hurt you." He took a cautious step closer. The girl froze. Her musical voice trembled in broken galactic standard. "Why would human help me? Your kind despises us." Walter flinched internally. If he were being honest, he understood her distrust. Many humans, especially after the Akamarian incursion, would sooner spit on a wounded alien than help. The two races had been bitter enemies for generations now. But leaving her here to bleed out alone, probably to die? No, he couldn't. "Look, I know our people have bad blood," he said softly, "but that's not me. I just see someone that needs help, and I want to give it, if you'll let me." Conflict swam in her luminous eyes before she slowly dipped her chin. Relief flooded him as he helped her stand, letting her lean against his side. Her skin felt cool through her tattered jumpsuit. "I'm Walter." "I'm Keed," she said, her voice a bit steadier, "of the Akamarian royal family." He blinked. Royal family? He opened his mouth, but Cade's next words chilled his blood. "And I am in grave danger. Please, you must help me." Walter's eyes widened in stunned disbelief. A princess? Of the Akamarian royal family? His head spun with the implications. He knew xenobiology would have to wait. "We need to get you somewhere safe," he said, mind racing. "My apartment. It's not far. Can you walk?" Cade nodded, gritting her teeth as she leaned on him. They hurried across campus, Walter supporting her weight. As they walked, Cade filled him in, her musical voice strained. "Rebels attacked the palace. They want to overthrow my family. I barely escaped. Pursued me here." Walter listened, pulse pounding. Rebels staging a coup against Akamar's monarchy. This was huge. "You're safe now," he assured her, as they reached his apartment complex. He helped her up the stairs and into his modest flat. In the bathroom, he eased Keed onto the closed toilet seat. He grabbed his first aid kit, thanking his past self for stocking up. As he cleaned and bandaged her wounds with gentle hands, he probed for more information. "These rebels, why do they want to overthrow your family?" Keed winced as he dabbed antiseptic on a gash. "There has been unrest for years now. Many are unhappy with how my parents rule. The rebels have been gaining support." Luminous eyes met his, swimming with fear. "If I do not return soon, stop this. I fear they may succeed in taking the throne." Walter's heart clenched. He couldn't imagine having that weight on his shoulders. "Let me help you," he found himself saying. Keed blinked at him, surprised. "You would risk your life for an Akamarian?" "I believe in doing what's right. Doesn't matter what species someone is." Walter smiled at her. "Plus, I've always thought your culture was fascinating. It'd be an honor to experience it firsthand." A tentative smile curved Keed's lips, her eyes shining. She dipped her chin. "I would be most grateful for your assistance." With her wounds tended, they moved to the living room to strategize. Walter paced, running a hand through his hair. If the rebels had tailed Kaid here, Nexus Prime wasn't safe. "What if we contact your embassy? They could help extract you." Kaid shook her head, silvery hair shimmering. "I do not know who I can trust. The rebels may have infiltrated." A loud bang on the door made them both jump. A rough male voice shouted, "Open up, we know the princess is in there." Walter's pulse raced as the banging on the door intensified. He met Keed's luminous, terrified eyes. "Hide in the closet," he hissed, pointing to his bedroom door. Keed gave a shaky nod and hurried to conceal herself. Walter grabbed his old baseball bat from under the bed, adrenaline coursing through his veins as he approached the shuddering door. Engaging the flimsy chain lock, he cracked it open. 3 burly Akamarian males glared back at him, blaster pistols in hand. The one-eyed leader snarled, baring sharp teeth, "Hand over the princess, human, and we'll let you live." "I don't know what you're talking about," Walter said flatly, feigning ignorance. "There's no princess here." The scarred rebel roared and slammed a beefy fist into the door, the chain creaking under the strain. "Don't lie to us, boy. We saw you help her escape. Now step aside before we break down this door and take her by force." Walter's heart hammered against his ribs. He had to act fast. His gaze flicked to the window, the fire escape, their only chance. "Kide, run," he bellowed, charging forward and swinging his bat in a wild arc. It connected with the leader's arm with a sickening crack. The rebel howled in pain and fury, his blaster discharging. The bolt sizzled past Walter's ear. The other 2 rebels shouldered their way inside, wrestling Walter for the bat. Kide burst from the bedroom, silvery hair flying. Snatching up a lamp, she smashed it over an attacker's head. He crumpled. Walter drove his knee into the leader's groin, seizing his blaster. But the 3rd rebel tackled him before he could fire, both crashing to the floor in a tangle of limbs. "Let him go," Keed commanded, aiming the fallen weapon at Walter's assailant with a steady hand. The thug froze, then released Walter, backing away. Panting, Walter climbed to his feet. He locked eyes with Keed, giving a quick nod of thanks. In unison, they sprinted for the bedroom. Walter practically dove through the open window, Keed on his heels. They clambered down the fire escape, rebel shouts echoing above as their pursuers gave chase. "This way," Walter gasped, pulling Keed into a narrow alley. They careened around corners and vaulted obstacles, the sound of pounding footfalls never far behind. After a small eternity, the shouts faded. They slumped against a wall, chests heaving as they caught their breath in a blessedly empty back street. Keed turned to him, eyes shining. "You risked your life for me, thank you." Walter grinned, still riding the adrenaline high. "Hey, I said I'd help you, and I meant it. Now let's figure out our next move before those guys catch up." Walter and Kide huddled in the shadowed alley, minds racing. Nexus Prime crawled with rebels out for blood. They needed a new plan, fast. "I know someone," Walter said. "An old friend, Zark, he's a tech wizard. Owns a shop in the lower levels. He might be able to help us contact the Galactic Council." Keed nodded, silvery hair glinting. "Then we must go to him. The Council may be our only hope of stopping this coup." They set off through bustling streets, heads down. Walter outlined the plan as they walked. "We'll ask Zark to set up a secure line to the Council, plead our case. They have to intervene before Akamar descends into full-blown civil war." "And if they refuse?" Worry creased Kide's brow. "They won't. This is too big." Walter squeezed her hand. "We'll figure this out together." Zark's repair shop hunched between towering skyscrapers. The Zorganian crouched over a sputtering android, his spiky blue mohawk bobbing as he worked. He glanced up, eyes widening at the unlikely pair. "Walt, what the hell?" He hurried them inside, locking the door. "Since when do you run around with Akamarian royalty?" Walter quickly explained as Zark listened, brow furrowed. "So we need your help, Zark. A secure council comm line. Can you do it?" Zark cracked his knuckles, green skin stretching over a toothy grin. "Can a Zorganian hack a Meepzorp freighter? Watch and learn, kids." His webbed fingers flew over the console, the screen flashing through encryptions. A beat, then a stern Zalarian face appeared. "This is Councillor Korvax. Identify yourselves." Walter and Keed rushed to the screen, talking over each other. Rebels, Akamar on the brink. Korvax listened, his ridged brow drawing lower. Sudden blaster fire rattled the shop walls. Shouts erupted outside. The rebels had found them again. "Zark!" Walter yelled. "We need an exit!" Zark slapped a button. Blast doors slammed down. Hidden turrets dropped from the ceiling, spraying the street with plasma bolts. Angry cries told him they found their marks. Korvax leaned forward, yellow eyes intense. "The Council will dispatch peacekeepers to Akamar immediately, but you must come to Zelar. We will need Princess Keed's testimony to authorize force." Zark raised a webbed hand. "I can get them there." At Walter's questioning look, he smirked. "Been working on a little project. Prototype stealth ship, virtually invisible to scanners. That hunk of junk's your ticket out of here." With rebels hammering at the doors, they raced to the hidden hangar. The sleek black ship waited, engines thrumming. They scrambled aboard, strapping in. Zark's fingers danced over the controls. The craft shimmered and vanished as the cloaking engaged. They rocketed up through layers of city, weaving through spiraling towers. A stomach-churning dive into a maintenance hatch. Then they were soaring over the glittering megalopolis. With a burst of speed, the ship punched through the atmosphere and out into the star-strewn void. Walter exhaled heavily, watching Nexus Prime dwindle to a distant marble. Beside him, Keed gripped the armrest, eyes bright with mingled fear and hope. The first step was behind them, but their fight to save Akamar was only beginning. The vastness of space stretched before them, as Zark plotted a course for distant Zelar. Jaw set, Walter stared out the viewscreen. One way or another, they would find a way to stop this war before it consumed everything. They had to. The prototype stealth ship sliced through the starry void, its sleek black hull shimmering as it raced towards distant Zelar. Inside the cockpit, Walter and Keed watched the viewscreen intently while Zark piloted, his webbed fingers dancing over the controls. Suddenly, a shrill beep echoed through the cabin. Zark frowned at the flashing display. "We're picking up a distress signal, Akamarian frequency." Cade leaned forward, luminous eyes wide. That's my father's ship, the Royal Vessel." She gripped Walter's arm, her musical voice strained. "Walter, we have to help them, please." Walter met her pleading gaze and nodded. "Zark, take us in." He squeezed Keed's hand reassuringly as they changed course. As they approached the listing Akamarian cruiser, scorch marks and gaping hull breaches came into view. Zark maneuvered their craft into the hangar bay, the telltale shimmer of their cloak dropping as they touched down. The trio rushed out, blasters drawn. The acrid stench of smoke and burnt circuitry assaulted their nostrils. Debris littered the hangar. Kyde's heart clenched as she spotted prone Akamarian bodies strewn about, Royal Guard uniforms stained with indigo blood. Blaster fire echoed ahead. Rebel voices shouted. Steeling themselves, they crept forward. The throne room doors hung askew. Inside, a knot of rebels in combat armor surrounded a group of battered Akamarians in tattered finery, the royal family. On his knees was a regal male with a crown of silvery hair, luminous blood seeping from a wound in his side. "Father!" Keed cried. The king's head snapped up. "Keed, no, run!" The burly rebel backhanded him viciously. Walter and Zark opened fire, dropping two with expert shots. The rest scattered for cover. Seizing the distraction, Kyde charged forward and dropped to her knees beside King Azor. "Father, I'm here." She pressed trembling hands to his wound. Azor cupped her cheek, smiling through the pain. "My brave daughter, you must get to safety." Walter and Zark laid down, suppressing fire, driving the rebels back. "Your Majesty, let's move," Walter barked. Grimacing, Azor climbed to his feet with Kyde's help. The able-bodied royals hauled up the wounded. Together they limped and ran for the hangar, plasma bolts sizzling past. They scrambled aboard the stealth ship. The hatch snapped shut. Zark punched the engines and they rocketed out into space, leaving the dead cruiser behind. In the cramped medbay, Kyde and Walter tended to Azor's wound, dermal regenerator whirring. "The rebels," the king rasped. "They've seized the palace, staged a coup." His luminous eyes found Kyde's. "They mean to execute us." Keed gripped his hand. "I won't let that happen, father." As Zark set course for Zelar once more, Azor turned his head to regard Walter. There is more. The rebels, they have powerful allies. The Kroll. Walter stiffened. He'd heard of the ruthless Kroll, a warlike race always seeking to expand their territory. They're working with the rebels? Azor nodded weakly. Kroll agents have been stoking unrest for months, smuggling weapons, all to destabilize Akamar and claim our resources. He winced as he shifted. The Council, they do not know. The Kroll deceive them even now. Walter's jaw clenched. The Galactic Council was flying blind into a hornet's nest. He met Keed's determined gaze. We have to warn them. They huddled around the star map, plotting. Azor stabbed a finger at a small moon. There, our family has a secret fortress on Azanar, well hidden, defensible. Zark, you must take the royals there. Keep them safe. Zark sketched a salute. With my life, Your Majesty. The king turned to Walter and Kaid. You two get to Zila. Convince the Council of the Kroll's treachery. It's our only hope. Keed embraced her father fiercely. I will save our people, I swear it. With heavy hearts, they split up. Zark and the royals peeled off for Azanar. Walter and Keed, alone in the cockpit, rocketed towards Zila. A heavy silence stretched between them, the weight of their mission pressing down. Walter reached over and squeezed Kaid's hand. We'll do this together. The Kroll won't get away with this. Kaid managed a strained smile, returning the pressure. I believe in us, Walter. As Zila's towers came into view, they both straightened in their seats. Failure was not an option. For Akamar, for the galaxy, they had to succeed. The imposing Galactic Council chamber hummed with activity as Walter and Kaid were escorted inside. Representatives from 100 worlds ringed the room, some eyeing the human and Akamarian with open suspicion. Walter and Keed marched to the central podium, heads held high. Esteemed councillors, Walter began, we come before you with urgent news. The Akamarian rebels do not act alone. They have secret allies, the Kroll. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. A hulking Kroll representative surged to his feet, teeth bared. Lies? The Kroll have no ties to these rebels. We are loyal members of this council. Other voices rose in agreement. Keed stepped forward, luminous eyes flashing. It's true. Kroll agents engineered this coup to destabilize our world. My father, the king, can attest to this treachery. The Kroll ambassador sneered. And where is your father, princess? Making wild accusations is easy without proof. Doubt clouded many faces. The Zalarian councillor, Korvax, held up a clawed hand for silence. These are serious allegations. Evidence must be presented. We cannot intervene in Akamar's affairs without cause. Walter and Kaid looked at each other helplessly. They were losing them. As the Kroll representative smirked in triumph, the chamber doors burst open. Zark strode in, a contingent of battle-scarred Akamarian loyalists at his back. In his webbed hands, he clutched a data chip. I have your proof right here, the Zorganian declared. He slotted the chip home. The view screen flared to life, showing intercepted transmissions, financial records, and holo recordings of Kroll agents colluding with rebel leaders, damning evidence of their duplicity. Shocked silence reigned. The Kroll ambassador's face twisted with rage. Korvax rose, yellow eyes hard as flint. In light of this evidence, the Council has no choice but to intervene on Akamar's behalf. We will send ships and troops to repel the Kroll threat. Relieved tears spilled down Keed's face. She clutched Walter's hand like a lifeline. Thank you, she breathed. The combined fleet of Council and Akamarian ships dropped out of warp above the besieged planet. Squads of rebel and Kroll vessels rose to meet them, weapons blazing. On the bridge of their battered flagship, Walter, Keed, and Zark steeled themselves for the fight of their lives. The fate of Akamar, of the galaxy, would be decided here and now. Plasma cannons lit the void as the battle was joined. Ships wheeled and dove, trailing fire. Walter and Kaid fought like demons, picking off targets with precise shots. But the Kroll's advanced weaponry proved terrifyingly effective. Council ships crumpled and burned under the onslaught. Akamarian cruisers reeled away, venting atmosphere. Walter slammed a fist on the console. teeth bared in a snarl. They were losing. The Kroll flagship loomed ahead, its massive cannon glowing as it prepared to fire. A lone Akamarian fighter peeled out of formation and accelerated on a collision course straight for the flagship's bridge. A familiar voice crackled over the comms. "For Akamar," King Azor roared. "For my daughter." "Father, no," Keed screamed, but it was too late. The fighter slammed into the Kroll ship with a blinding flash. A miniature sun bloomed, consuming both vessels in a maelstrom of light and fury. "Father!" Keed's anguished cry echoed across the void. The Kroll flagship exploded into a million shards. Cheers erupted across the Allied comms as the tide turned. Leaderless, the remaining Rebel and Kroll ships surrendered or fled. It was over, they had won, but the cost... Kaid collapsed into Walter's arms, luminous tears streaming down her face. He held her close, his own eyes wet, whispering words of comfort, even as his heart broke for her loss. In the aftermath, a fragile peace settled over Akamar. The rebels were rounded up, Kroll agents faced trial, and a new queen was crowned. Keed stood tall and regal in shimmering robes, a delicate circlet upon her brow. Beside her, Walter looked on with quiet pride, resplendent in his ambassador's uniform. As cheers of "Long live the Queen" echoed through the grand hall, Keed turned to Walter, luminous eyes soft. "Thank you," she murmured, "for everything. I could not have done this without you." Walter clasped her hand, throat tight. "It's been an honor, Your Majesty. Akamar is lucky to have you." A wistful smile touched Keed's lips. "As am I to have known you. But your place is among the stars now. You'll do great things." He nodded, not trusting his voice. Their journey had reached its end, but the bond they'd forged through blood and fire and sacrifice would endure. With a final bow, Walter stepped back. He held Keed's gaze a moment longer, committing every detail to memory. Then he turned and strode from the hall, ready to meet his destiny. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.